Kia ora koutou. We are live here from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland and Aotearoa, New Zealand in some beautiful blustery weather. You can't even see the Sky Tower today. We're here because it's the 40th anniversary of the bombing of the original Rainbow Warrior that happened here in Auckland 40 years ago. We've just had a commemoration ceremony for that this morning. And we're going to take a little tour around the ship with you today. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's Nevo Flynn. I'm the Program Director at Greenpeace Aotearoa. I'm joined by Adriana, who is the third mate on the Rainbow Warrior, and we are looking forward to taking you around this ship. Shall we get cracking?
Yeah.
Shall we get moving? Get into the dry pretty soon.
Sure, let's go. Follow me, please.
Yeah, great. There we go. Adriana, you are third mate on the Rainbow Warrior. Can you tell us a little bit about what a third mate is and what you do?
My job has two sides. One side is being part of the bridge team, which is in charge of the navigation of the ship. So the bridge team takes the shifts 24/7. So there's always someone on the bridge pretty much driving the whole ship.
Great. And this is a working ship, so maybe it's worth us telling our audience. We might be interrupted. There's a lot of work going on to keep this ship sailing, so to speak. So bear with us if that happens. Adriana, I hear an accent. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Colombia.
Awesome. What different nationalities do you have on the ship at the moment?
Oh, wow. We're so many. I think it has to be like 12 nationalities. Like just the bridge team. My team is captain is German. A chief mate from the Netherlands, second mate from Italy, and me Colombian, and there's so many more nationalities.
Awesome. And what does it mean to you to work on the Rainbow Warrior? How long have you been on this ship, and what does it mean to you to work on it?
In general, I started sailing with Greenpeace 4 years ago almost, and now in the Rainbow Warrior, I've been about a month. For me, it's pretty much a big deal to work here. I mean, as a sailor, because the ship it's pretty impressive, huge sails, really dynamic. It's really different type of ship. And on a personal level, because I really love being part of being witnesses of what's going on far away, deep down at sea, where people at home, cannot really see what's happening.
Were you a sailor first, or were you with Greenpeace first?
I was a sailor first. Yes.
Wow. How do you find sailing with Greenpeace compared to other sailing missions you've done?
Oh, it's quite fun. Yes. Yeah, it's very interesting.
We make you do things like this. Tell us, what makes this ship an activist ship?
I think I would consider it like a floating warehouse for Greenpeace. The ship was designed pretty much to serve all the purposes that a campaign needs when you're out there at sea. So the whole design, like having boats, fast boats or rips, being able to carry helicopters for reaching further areas that we cannot with a ship, conference room or more spaces where we can host events. I will tell you a bit more about these spaces. We will go through them and I can show you around as well.
Awesome. Should we get inside out of this rain?
Yes, let's do it.
Great, let's go. Take us away.
Okay.
Where are we going next, Adriana?
Okay, so now we're gonna head to the main deck, but it's also, consider the boat deck, where our fast boats are stored. Also, I think it's a nice area because it's a bit more sheltered, so we're not standing all the time there in the rain.
We're thinking of all of our colleagues and friends and supporters in North America and Europe and the Northern Hemisphere right now having summer, eh?
Yes, and in Colombia as well. Colombia, it's like kind of always summer or always winter depending on where you live. So I definitely miss a bit of more warmer weather.
Okay, tell us about this rib here.
Yes, so we have two ribs. Ribs standing for rigid hull inflated boat. So I would say they're our action boats. If you have been seeing many of actions and activities we do, they are, we embark here our activists and the crew that's maybe like heading to do like a bit more like the direct action against or whatever our target is, or not. But not only that, it's also serving for many scientific projects we have done. Like in my experience, we have been able to deploy ROVs, hydrophones, or maybe go and document some species, deploy divers. So like these reps are really, I don't know, like serve like a different variety of purposes also for the campaigns.
Are these the little boats that you see in those kind of classic Greenpeace pictures, like for example the old school ones of the harpoons and the whales? Would it be these kind of boats?
Yeah, exactly. Would be exactly this type of boats. And just that, well, now, luckily with time passing, we've been able to have like a bit of more modern type of boats. These are actually jet boats, so are a lot more efficient, pretty fast. They can reach up to 30 knots or even more. So yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. And on the Warrior itself, how many people sail on the Rainbow Warrior now normally?
Normally base crew 15 people, 16. When we have campaigns, then it can go up to 30. But yeah, the basic crew 15. Yeah.
Right. And how old is this ship? Because obviously the original Rainbow Warrior was bombed 40 years ago today, and this is number 3, Rainbow Warrior number 3. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about this boat?
Okay. Well, it's about to be 14 years old, 1-4, and well, by the time that we had the Rainbow Warrior 2, and like we realized, okay, it's been running for a long time, we need to kind of think of a ship that can serve our purposes. So it was commissioned to be built with a firm of naval Dutch architects. So they designed the ship specially for Greenpeace purposes. They sat down, and as I said, like they were like, okay, this is gonna be a floating warehouse. How do we do? We want to install a heli deck and a heli hangar that we will be passing by soon. So how do we do that? And how do we also make it clean, maintain the sails, maintain maximum sailing efficiency? So yeah, so many things were put into the specific design of the ship. Like there's no other ship like this one.
How tall are those sails? I was noticing this morning when we were sitting there, they're massive. How tall are they?
They are huge. So the mast height is 54 meters. We have 5 sails, and in total the sail area is like 1,200 meters. That's huge. That's massive. Yeah.
And how fast can she sail?
It's designed to sail up to 14 knots. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we go and see the heli hangar?
Yeah, sure. Come with me.
Okay, we're just on our way. Here we go.
So, well, now we're passing by the heli deck. The heli deck, well, nowadays we don't use helicopters as much because now with technology and it's also super expensive to hire or to maintain a helicopter here. So now we're using drones instead of helicopters. But yeah, when it was initially designed, it wasn't thought for, I mean, it was planned, yeah, for helicopters.
And there's those massive sails you're just talking about. Should we make our way into the hangar?
Yeah, let's go inside.
Oh, hey Ellie. Nice to see you. How are you? Audience, I'd like to introduce you to Ellie Hooper, who is in charge of the Oceans campaign work here at Greenpeace Aotearoa, and she's just come back from a big trip out at sea. Ellie, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Sure. Do you want me to hold it?
Sure.
We've been out in off the east coast of New Zealand, out on the Chatham Rise, where we've been documenting the New Zealand bottom trawl fleet out there. It was pretty hairy weather while we were out there in the middle of winter, so we had a lot of rocking and rolling, about 100 kilometres out to sea. But yes, this is part of our campaign to get restrictions around New Zealand bottom trawling. New Zealand is the last country to be bottom trawling out in the high seas of the South Pacific, and they're actively standing in the way of more comprehensive ocean protection, which is what most countries want. So that's what we've been doing most recently for the last 3 weeks. It's all part of our global campaign to get ocean sanctuaries out in the high seas.
Amazing. Tell us the crunchy stuff. What did you actually do while you were out there?
When we were out there, we spent a few days kind of documenting fishing vessels, so mainly using drones in quite hectic weather to try to get images of the catch and what the bottom trawlers were actually doing out there to document the damage. And then we also spent some time with a bunch of activists rebranding a couple of bottom trawling vessels who were doing a huge amount of damage far out to sea. So a team of activists managed to rebrand a Tally's bottom trawler and a Sea Lord bottom trawler while we were out there.
What does rebranding mean?
Yeah, very good question. That sounds like marketing speak. Well, these vessels all have nice names, right? But we think that essentially they are ocean killers. We know that bottom trawling is doing a huge amount of damage to the ocean system, and this has been well established for centuries, decades, but we haven't seen transition away from that method. So it was a rebranding exercise to call these vessels what they are, which is ocean killers. And I think for anyone who's seen the David Attenborough documentary, it's very obvious that that's what these vessels are.
Well, the fishing industry very vocally called you vandals, you and the activists and Greenpeace in general. What do you have to say to that? Are we vandals?
No, I don't think we are. I mean, I think when you peacefully protest against a practice that's well established to have huge impact on the integrity of the ecosystem, pointing that out is not really an act of vandalism, especially when you do it in water-soluble paint. So I think that the real vandalism are the companies that are dragging up the bottom of the ocean, causing irrevocable destruction and taking far too much out of it, more than it can sustain.
Do you enjoy your time being out on the ships?
Yes, I do. I've been lucky enough to sail on several Greenpeace ships, and it's always really, really fun. I would say it's type 2 fun, especially when the when the ship is moving a lot and you're trying to work on your computer and maybe sliding across deck and in and out of your chair at meal times. But yeah, it's always an awesome experience. It's really quite unique to work with a very diverse group of people from all around the world who all have a particular role, whether they're a elite sailor or a deckhand or a chef who can cook meals for 50 people, campaigners, photographers. It's just a really great melting pot and a really enjoyable experience, and I'm always sad when it ends.
It's such a pleasure to watch you and the team out there doing what you do. You're all such pros, but how can normal people get involved? Normal people, as if you're not normal people yourselves. How can other normal people get involved with the wonderful campaign work that you do?
I would say that sign petitions, that would be the first thing. Signing a petition to get New Zealand bottom trawlers banned from the South Pacific would be the first step. Get it banned on seamounts, which are really unique ecosystems. But also sign the petition to help us create these ocean sanctuaries. We know that this is what is required if we want to have a healthy planet for the future. We need to protect huge areas of the ocean from the destructive human activities that are currently piling up on them. So sign petitions. You can also volunteer, you can donate to the campaign, but we're always looking for people to get involved in a multitude of ways, lend your skills to us. So yeah, reach out.
When you were 10, did you imagine that you would be out sailing the seas with Greenpeace?
No, I don't think I did. I don't think I knew what Greenpeace was, but I have always felt very passionately about nature and about the environment, so maybe the writing was on the wall.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. We really appreciate and love the work that you do out there. Thanks for protecting the oceans. All right, Adriana, back to you. Where shall we go?
Okay, so maybe we can walk through the heli hangar and we can get to our next stop, which is the wet room.
So heli hangar, where we are right now, would there actually be a helicopter inside here sometimes?
Yeah. That was the whole idea, but now it has become pretty much like a storage area.
It looks like a kayak hangar right now.
Yeah, we have these 2 laser boats that we can also use for actions. We also on the top deck we have kayaks, but also we have lots of sorts of working equipment as well.
It's pretty incredible, and here's some people working.
Yep, as we expected.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely boat mechanics, the ones that make sure that the boats are running all the time.
Okay, mind your step, colleagues. Okay, tell us about this room that we are in now.
Okay, so we are in the wet room. I don't think like many ships you can tell like they have like a specific place called wet room. Here it was designed for like the time on activists or whoever has been on the boats when they arrive. Many times they arrive like super soaking wet, so they can just remove their wet stuff like I'm gonna do now because
demonstrate it.
So Everybody has their own place to hang their wet clothes, get changed. Also, we have here like the rest of the PPEs, like a life inflatable life jackets, helmets, bathroom, and here well some other cleaning supplies.
I understand that this sweat room was fundraised for by supporters from Aotearoa and funded through Greenpeace Aotearoa. So that's pretty exciting for our audience.
Yeah, thank you for that, Greenpeace Aotearoa. Okay.
Awesome. Right, where should we go next?
Okay. I guess we should get inside, back to the bit more warmer areas, and I can show you, the main deck. So
Let's go. We're about to meet, I believe, a very special person who was actually on board the Rainbow Warrior, the original Rainbow Warrior, 40 years ago on its final voyage, David Roby, who is sitting in here. We will find him in the lounge. David. Kia ora.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Nice to see you.
Ah, great.
You can sit down if you want to.
Oh, okay, going to sit down. That's great.
Um,
Gotta keep my seat. Yeah, good.
Yeah, so here we have David Roby. David, what were you doing 40 years ago on the day of the bombing?
Well, I was actually at home in bed at the actual time of the bombing, because I've been travelling for 11 weeks on board the Rainbow Warrior. But on the 7th, the 3 days before, we arrived in Aotearoa. I thought I was quite keen to get back ashore for a while. And so I came down early in the morning. I got phoned at home to say the ship had been bombed. And Fernando was missing at that stage because it hadn't been confirmed that he had actually been killed. It was a really shocking, horrific night actually. But for me, I actually suspected French immediately, because as a journalist I've been reporting on independence issues around the Pacific and going to Kanaka, New Caledonia and French Polynesia. And seeing at first hand how the oppressive colonial policies there, I thought, yes, the French have actually targeted the Rainbow Warrior. And the police investigation quickly started to show that. After the first, it was a bit of confusing reports at the time, but it was horrendous, but it's galvanised our nation. It's basically sort of really strengthened the whole nuclear-free concept, and right through not just New Zealand but the whole of the Pacific and so on. And I think we were inspirational to the rest of the world.
And for you, have you stayed campaigning and been involved with this movement for the last 40 years as well?
Yeah, because I was on board for the voyage to Rongelap, where we moved the whole entire village, 320 people, and they took down, in 3 days, they took down all their homes, and the only building that was left on the island was the stone church, whitewashed church, an amazing building that was. But everything else packed up and loaded onto the Rainbow Warrior, and we had 4 voyages to go to another island, Majato. And so I was on board for all of that, and I felt that a sort of responsibility as a journalist to keep retelling the story as much as I could, and I documented as much as I could in those days. But when I look at Rainbow Warrior now, Rainbow Warrior 3, and it's super, our particularly communications and so on has changed. The technology has changed over the years. But back then, in 1985, Fernando, photographer, he had to do his darkroom, create that in the library on the ship. And then he had to have all his chemicals and process his photographs. And then to send the photographs out to the world, we had a wire machine up in the radio room, and it's one of those old cylinder things, and you sort of wrap the photograph around it, and it took forever, for that photograph to be transmitted to wire news agencies. So pretty amazing to think back, how we managed to get the story out, if you like. But anyway, I felt for me personally, it's really a responsibility to keep on telling the story as much as possible. So I've written a lot. And I've got a book coming out now, Eyes of Fire: The Last Voyage and Legacy of the Rainbow Warrior. But there is, I noticed, I'm very pleased to see there's copies of the book on board here, of the previous edition, which was 10 years ago. So this new one has got a lot of new material, and former Prime Minister Helen Clark, she wrote the prologue to it and so on. And so she's keeping the fire alike, if you like, for a nuclear-free, and of course climate crisis now is the main issue, especially in the Pacific, and so we're very much campaigning on those sort of issues.
It must have been such a hugely emotional experience for you to go through, and I think for everyone in the Greenpeace community, and actually for everyone in Aotearoa, the bombing of the Rainbow Warrior was such a huge thing. And we had the dawn ceremony this morning to commemorate the original Rainbow Warrior and Fernando Pereira, who lost his life that day. How do you feel having the ship here for this moment, for the 40th anniversary, and how did you feel about this morning's ceremony?
I found it a really beautiful ceremony, and very well organised, and I think there's a real buzz, because in these times, the troubled times that we have in the world, it's sort of like Greenpeace and the Rainbow Warrior are touchstones for the struggle for justice and globally environmental justice, but also just social justice, I think. And I think that buzz was sort of coming through this morning with the memorial in time, and I think that was so good, and especially having the tangata whenua, the Māori component of it, was so beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. We were very lucky to have Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei co-hosting that event with us. I think we have to move on and leave you here, David, but we really appreciate you being here and all of your work over the last more than 40 years. Lovely to see you, David.
It's really nice to be on this ship, though. It's so lovely, yeah.
Well, relax in this beautiful living area. Is there anything in this living room you want to point out to us before we head out?
No, but I'm sort of struck by there's actually quite a few Pacific sort of mementos and that sort of thing, so I feel at home.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. All right. To change pace slightly, Adriana, you live on this boat for 3 months at a time.
Yes.
You're going to show us where you live?
Yes, sure, but there's something that I forgot to show you that I think it's a really interesting spot to see, because this ship and campaigning at sea wouldn't be nothing if we didn't have a special communication radio room that it's able to send the message out to the world when we're like in the middle. So yeah, let's go and check out the radio room.
Let's see the radio room. Okay.
Hi.
Hello, radio room. Hi, Neil. Can you tell us a little bit about the radio room?
Well, this is our little hub of the internet access for everybody on board, where most of the data comes and goes from the ship. We also have our servers and the internal telephone system from here, and some radios.
So is radio maybe a little bit of a misleading term these days?
Yes, these days we've turned really into the internet.
And do you have any problems with having enough data for everybody when you're out at sea for a long time? Or are people's Facebook and Netflix streaming, or what's happening out there?
Yes, that's the big problem. There's never enough. You can't eat everything and have your cake too.
Now, I've heard rumor, sorry to spring this upon you, but I've heard rumor that you might be the longest standing continuous Greenpeace employee in the world. Is this true?
I think it is, yes. I think I've been on permanent staff since 96.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much for your service. And did you enjoy the dawn ceremony this morning?
Yes, I did. Yes, but it was also personally sad.
Well, thank you so much for showing us your workspace. We really appreciate it, and appreciate all of your work that you do day in, day out to keep this ship moving.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Adriana, where to?
Okay, yeah, I think now we can go to an area that not everyone has really access to, which is our living space, the cabin deck. So follow me.
So the cabin deck, this is where people are sleeping?
Yep.
And what's the kind of sleeping situation? There's a sign here that says, "Watch keeper resting. Please be thoughtful about making unnecessary noise," which we are about to do. What's the kind of sleeping situation here on the ship?
So, well, when we are at sea and we're campaigning, usually we're sharing cabins, but also, since I told you, we are 24/7, someone, being awake, doing the navigation, and also making rounds every hour to make sure everything's okay on the ship. Then, of course, people sleeping, let's say 2 o'clock in the morning, someone comes and makes a round, so it's okay, let's keep it quiet so everybody can have a proper rest.
So are people essentially doing shift work?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly.
So some people are asleep all the time.
Some people, yes, like when we're at sea throughout the whole day, especially morning, like before noon, or sometimes afternoon, there will be someone sleeping after their shift.
So we can see your bedroom.
Yeah.
Let's show us how you live. And there's some beautiful pictures of the various rainbow warrior boats that have been through the years. I love this messaging: save the whales, save the earth.
Okay, so now the mate on duty today. That means that also, since I'm the mate on duty, I am whatever happens on the ship today. Like I'm kind of responsible for that the whole day.
So mate
So-
means more than just friends in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Here it's like the mate is like the officer. Let's say like more like nautical way of saying it. Yeah, so I'm the mate on duty, and then this is a sign so everybody can know like okay, this is where the responsible person for the day lives or sleeps in. Okay.
All right, in we go. Through the curtains. Wow. Cool. Tell us about your room.
Well, yeah, I don't know the measurements. You have 2 bunks. I sleep on the lower bunk because, especially being at sea, it's really annoying when you start rolling, and I don't want to roll out of bed and fall on the floor. So I really like the lower bunk a bit better. Yeah,
How do you stop from falling out of bed when the ship's really rolling?
I usually put something under my mattress to create like a little cocoon, so it's just like stopping me from rolling out of bed. And like the top ones have like a wooden piece on the side. Well, I cannot, but you can just put a wooden piece, so it's just like stopping you from falling.
Amazing. And you've got your own shower. Does everybody have a shower in their room?
Yes, everybody does have a shower. And what else? And yeah, this is like my chilling area. My books here, my whiteboard for keeping notes and tracking everything. Now I have some really beautiful messages from the people I've been sharing my cabin with. And yeah, it's my chilling space.
What's it like sharing a room with? So I mean, obviously you're on board for 3 months at a time, and you must share a room with a couple of different people every single time you're on board. What's that like?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes it's exhausting, but at the same time, you always find a way to negotiate with the person who's coming. Like, okay, I'm gonna be sleeping at this time, so maybe you can be away, or like, yeah, it's always about negotiating so everyone can have a bit of space here by themselves because the ship is always so crowded that it's hard to find like a place for your own.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing this quite personal part of the ship with the whole of the internet.
You're welcome.
Where should we head to next?
Yeah, I believe like our last spot would be. Shall it be the bridge, right? Because like that's like the brains of the ship. So I think we cannot finish this without going to the bridge.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go.
Can you tell us while we're walking to the bridge, what does a normal day look like for you?
Okay, for me, should I take this? Yeah.
Take it. Tell us while you walk.
For me, when in port, I have like a normal like 8 to 5 schedule. I'll be doing maintenance of different equipment, like firefighting equipment, life-saving stuff like the life rafts, life ranks, yeah, everything we need in case we need to abandon the ship. And then I also have to do the morning cleaning with everybody. Also, well, when we're at sea, I would be from 8 to 12 doing watches, 8 to 12 morning and evening. And then in the meantime, like in between those times, I have lunch or I have dinner or I spend a little bit time on my own. So, okay, we have arrived.
So this is the bridge. Captain Ellie,
Hello.
we're in the bridge.
Folks. How's it going?
It's going very well. Adriana tells us this is the brains of this ship.
This is the brains, not the brains, it's the people. This is just the machinery here and all the controls basically, yeah? This is where we navigate the ship, sail the ship. But human brains are still required, luckily. Yeah? Yeah, no AI anywhere here in the ship.
No AI, but it's a very small steering wheel. It's not what you imagine a steering wheel on a ship looks like. Can you tell us how you steer this thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, those days are over of romantic wooden large steering wheels that need to be manned by 2 or 3 or 4 crew. This is a small steering wheel that you can operate steering hydraulics. You can even use even less romantic joysticks. Yeah. We also have an autopilot that keeps the ship going straight. So plenty options of steering the ship.
Very cool. What do you think is the most interesting thing in the bridge?
Most interesting thing in the bridge is maybe our charts, because we have sea charts here that cover the whole planet. Yeah. If you zoom out, we can see New Zealand here, where we've just been. This is actually our last track here on the east coast, where we've been finding some fishing vessels around here. Yeah.
So
But if you zoom out further, then you can have anything you want: Antarctica, Australia. Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty important for us since we are operating and sailing this ship all around the globe.
wow. What does it mean to you to sail on the Rainbow Warrior? I mean, you've been a sailor for a long time. What does it mean to sail on this ship?
Yeah, I mean, this is very different from all sorts of different ships. Yeah, since every ship has usually a commercial purpose, being it cargo or with passengers. I myself was sailing mostly on tall ships, but also with passengers here. But this is quite different since we have a very different purpose here. Yeah, we run the ship to make it available for you guys and all the offices around the world for whatever campaign they want to use it for. And that's a special purpose. So we run it with a very extremely international crew here. Sometimes we have 15 crew, 15 different nationalities. So that's always interesting to work with. And then getting around the world and working with local offices for all sorts of different projects, that does make it quite special.
It's really special. Is it your job to make sure that all of those people do their jobs and get along despite language barriers and cultural differences? Is that a big part of your job?
That is actually the essence of the job. That's the biggest challenge. Yeah, that's much more of a challenge than any technical issues or any maneuvering issues. It's usually getting the team together to work together well. Yeah, I mean, luckily this is rather easy here. Because be it the crew or be it the teams from the local offices, it's always a pleasure to work with all these people, and but it's essential that a ship and everything you do with a ship is only as good as the team that's on board. Yeah.
You must have very high trust in your team and among your team to be able to do the kind of work that you do day in, day out, and that must be kind of special. And you must build friendships for life. Is that how you see it?
It's friendships also. I mean, on a ship you can never choose the people you work together, but you have to make it work. Yeah, there's friendships, but there at least has to be respect. Yeah, and that works really well here. Yeah, I mean, we have very competent people, and indeed I can trust them completely here. Yeah.
It's amazing. We thank you so much for the work that you do. Have you got any highlights from this last trip around Aotearoa?
Highlights from the last trip, I mean, it's the winter season here, so the weather is changing very much from beautiful sunny days with calm seas, yeah, and not 12 hours later do you get 40 knots and 4 to 5 meter seas. So, and that's interesting in finding these fishing vessels in these sometimes tricky conditions, but the team managed really well, yeah. We managed to find a few, even though they were trying their best to hide, yeah.
What does it look like for a ship to hide at sea?
Well, I mean, these days you have to have electronic transponders. That's pretty common and actually mandatory for any commercial ship. But you can still switch it off. If that's a good thing to do or legal or not is a different question. But this is what they did. But regardless, we kind of managed to find a few and document a little bit more and also send them a message. Yeah.
And this morning we commemorated the 40th anniversary of the bombing of the original vessel. What did it mean to you? You were part of laying the wreath out into the water. What did that mean to you?
I mean, this is a special moment, of course. Yeah, this is a special ship. I mean, I only work here for 3 years, and today I met a lot of people who've been working for Greenpeace back in the day, or have been working here for decades already. Yeah. But I mean, this is obviously a special day. This is the essence of almost the essence of the Rainbow Warrior, right? That we could commemorate today. And I mean, being here today on the 3rd Rainbow Warrior, yeah, being afloat, I guess it's just the best proof that you cannot sink a rainbow. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do, and I think we're going to wrap up there because we're starting to roll a little bit more than I can manage. Thank you so much for joining us for this live stream. Hopefully you can come down if you're based in Tamaki Makaurau. You can come down to our open days that are happening this weekend and next weekend. And really, Greenpeace couldn't do the kind of work that we do without people like you. So thank you so much for joining us and for supporting the work that we do, that we've been doing for the last 50 years and hope to be doing for the next 50 years. So if you'd like to make a donation to keep this kind of work going, that would be wonderful. Or if you'd like to sign a petition to help us ban bottom trawling, we'd really appreciate that. But thanks for joining us. Take care.
Do come visit us. The next 2 weekends, we're all here for you.
You can meet Captain Ali in the flesh. Awesome. Signing out. Thank you very much.